Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Rotoworld Football Show, Thursday, January 15th. It is the best weekend in football, the Divisional Round. Although it's going to be hard-pressed to beat the wild card weekend we just witnessed. Man, what a slate of games. It was nice to have like a legitimate 7-team field in at least one conference. I guess the Panthers they were an illegitimate playoff team, but they gave us a legitimate game. So we do salute them.
I was going to say, of all there were two clear illegitimate teams, and the Panthers are the one who put up an actual fight. Steelers were the other illegitimate team, and they got absolutely destroyed.
You understand, the Steelers, it wasn't their fault. It was the wind.
Hey, let me tell you, the Panthers were so illegitimate that Pat texted me in the fourth quarter and said, I guess you were right. I guess you were right about the Panthers.
Hey, whatever happened to HIPAA, all right?
And here's the thing, Kyle. I fell for it. I was like, yeah, I guess I was right. Oh well.
What do you mean?
You were right enough. You were right enough.
You're right. Like you didn't come pound the table like actually you kind of did. Whatever.
I should have immediately been like the Rams will win easily.
So we'll see. I think Denny's going to claim the Rams will win easily this weekend because of his blood feud against the Chicago Bears. He does not like the Bears. He doesn't want that to be public. But guys, if you're on Blue Sky, the internet, the website, and it seems like Denny doesn't like the Bears. You're like, well, that's probably just in my head. They don't care. No, he doesn't like the Bears.
No,
Denny does not like the Bears. We love the Divisional Round, though. Well, listen, the Bears fans thing is a classic, like taste success once type of deal, wins actual game once, and like we're back, like hell yeah, and like they're just like dunking on people constantly.
Almost has a 4,000-yard passer once,
right? I will say the pettiness between Bears and Packers fans, I do adore. I treasure it.
But it's only the Bears side.
You sound, oh my God, you are in the Packers hive here at this point. Like the Packers, we never even think about you. And like, or they, I got to break it to you, Packers fans, you do.
Okay, all right. The interactions that I've had, the Packers fans have been like, I don't know what these guys' problem.
That was Denny's comment. There was the most like, congrats on winning your Super Bowl kind of thing ever. Because nobody, I saw this is cribbing a post from someone else online. It's like that line, like this is their Super Bowl, is the most like guy crying but wearing the I'm not crying mask ever. Like you've never been more upset than when you say that line.
Absolutely.
This is their Super Bowl, which of course they won. So now they are here this weekend. Who are they playing? Playing the Rams. That's one of the games. That's on NBC. Bills, Broncos. The Bills had the distinction of being favored on the road against the number 1 seed in the AFC. The money has come in. That has flipped. The Broncos are now narrow home favorites. We'll break down that entire game. 49ers at Seahawks. A lot of like divisional trilogies this year. Bears, Packers, an amazing one last weekend. 49ers, Seahawks this weekend. Rams, Bears, of course. And then Texans, the other team. Patriots. The 8 teams remaining in the field. We'll get to all that in just 1 second. Coaches, we're going to get to John Harbaugh. We give our thoughts on him joining the New York Giants. Real quick, we have a little riff suite, though, here, guys. And very alarming news. Kyle, you share the very alarming news that has been coming across the news wires the past 2 days.
Yeah, I mean, we try and keep the show light, right? At the end of the day, it's not even really a football show. It's a fantasy football show. It's a game about a game. We're here to have fun, hopefully be a distraction from your mundane job or whatever in life has you down. But we do have some rather, I'd say, somber news. The Detroit Lions have interviewed, or maybe it's requested an interview, technically, an offensive coordinator interview with Arthur Smith.
Dear God.
That's heavy news.
That's heavy news. And there's nothing we can really say, to calm or soothe our
audience. At a time like this, there is nothing
we're not even going to try.
Right. No. We just know that we're here for you, analytics geeks and fantasy nerds who want the best for the Lions. I personally believe that Dan Campbell, our analytics king, will not do this. He can't do this, and if he does,
what is this? This is the groveling portion of grief, I believe, is what's going on.
Yeah, no. If he does, then he's no longer our king. We're going to have to find someone else.
Just based on the news of the interview, they don't even know he's going to get hired. David Montgomery has bought a home in Monte Carlo, so things are getting real. We'll keep you updated on that. Well, also, Kyle, the Steelers looks like they have a type as they're trying to replace Mike Tomlin. They've 7 head coaching interviews. You pointed out they've interviewed 1 offensive mind, quote unquote.
That would be the Rams pass game coordinator. I believe it's Nate Scheelhaas.
Fake guy. He's actually getting interviews all the time. He did last year even.
Yeah.
They've taken all the low-hanging fruit off the Shanny tree, so now they're like on a yeah, I don't think you should be on a ladder on the apple tree. Quiet. I'm gonna
get this is where you find the tastiest ones out on a limb.
Yeah. So, the Steelers, they're going to quadruple down on being what was the name of those famous defenses they had 50 years ago?
What was that?
The Iron Curtain. I said, what was the name of those famous defenses they had 50 years ago?
No, the Steel Curtain.
The Iron Curtain.
Steel Curtain. Iron Curtain. The Steel Curtain.
Slightly
Sorry,
different.
not to get political.
Slightly different.
Steel Curtain. Denny, by the way, too. So Kyle and I are like, is Denny making this news item up? Denny found a news item that he wants to talk about. He wants to stump for a potential candidate for one opening.
Yeah, I think Mike McDianel to Philadelphia would be very good and interesting. Mostly because I read in a Philadelphia Inquirer article the other day where several players, Eagles players, were interviewed after their loss to the Niners, right? And they're frustrated. They're being short with the reporters. But Devontae Smith was very open, right? And he told reporters, look, nothing has ever changed here. Like, no matter what offensive coordinator we have, no matter what quarterbacks coach we have, the scheme and what we do doesn't change. Now, I think what we saw was with Pachulo.
No one ever know. No one ever learned how to pronounce.
I thought you just went straight to the U. You're pronouncing it like patchouli, like the oil. I thought it was Patullo, like it's a harder T. But again,
no, there's no point. There's no point in ever learning his name. He was the most obvious one and done play caller ever.
Yeah, we're gonna call him Kevin. Kevin. I think what his problem was like the sequencing of the scheme, right? Like when to use certain plays, and he was really bad at that. But Devontae Smith saying that nothing has really changed scheme-wise means that I think the Eagles need new eyes. They need fresh eyes, and they need Mike McDaniel to come in and be like, this is my offense now. And Sirianni needs to be okay with doing that, with making that change.
It sounds like what they actually need is a 10th head coach vacancy, Denny. Is kind of what you're saying.
I would say that probably was the move. Sirianni is so deep with the ownership, I guess, at this point that he can't be fired, but he probably should have been fired.
Our guy, like Sirianni, I was kind of like, all right, yeah, we get it. Like watching the game last weekend, like you're Sirianni, like, yeah, cool. Like, you've been Sirianni for a while now, kind of bored with this.
It's boring.
Yeah.
It's boring at this point. Yeah.
It's very, very boring. It's John Harbaugh to New York Giants, boring. 9 head coach vacancies, 8 that were not the Baltimore Ravens, the team that relieved John Harbaugh of his duties. The Giants were like, we'll name the stadium after you, man. Like we will make you the owner of the franchise. Like we'll do some like illegal stuff in New York, like stuff we don't even have the rights to do. We'll make you the mayor. Like who cares? Like you're the mayor.
Again, the mayor of a city we're not based in.
Yeah,
we'll get it for you. We're
not even in the state. We're the New Jersey Giants. Denny. I mean, listen, the Harbaugh resume in most ways speaks for itself. The Harbaugh recent history also speaks for itself. Like everyone's connecting the dots. Like they've got an ascending franchise quarterback. We have no idea if Jackson Dart is even half as good as Lamar Jackson. He's 62, so he's not going to be in like long-term 5 to 6 year time horizon window. Saviors like this have a way of going sideways in the NFL. He's not even a play caller. I know he's maybe the most well-regarded CEO coach in the entire NFL. Basically, no way it's a bad hire. But is this as good of a hire as the New York Giants like desperately want it to be?
I think so, actually. I mean, I trust John Harbaugh to delegate and to like make the good hires, especially offensively. He made look, he made
they might be bringing Monken, so
he's
fine.
Well, what's wrong with
obviously Monken? It's unfortunate that I always stay in my coaching tree and it's really trite and I do it every time. It kind of works with Monken. He's pretty good. Like I gotta admit, I understand why you bring him back, but he's 100%. Like he would be like, I put him like minus 250 to be the offensive coordinator. The moment the Harbaugh tweets started coming out, reporters were getting quote leaked. This was a leak where like you don't even have to actually get fed the information. You're just like, I know I'm right. I'm just gonna pretend I sourced it. Like Monken in the clubhouse for getting the OC job.
Yeah, I mean, I give John Harbaugh credit for like breaking with Greg Roman after Roman had coached Lamar Jackson to like some of the best quarterback play ever, like as far as EPA goes, as far as success rate goes. And when that got stale, John Harbaugh made the right call. I think he's a good manager. I think he's a good like CEO, like you said, Pat. I think that's what this franchise needs. This franchise is a mess. It's a disaster, and I think he can come in and stabilize. Now they're not going to compete for a Super Bowl. Let's be clear. Let's be clear about that. Okay, they're not going to be. They might be like a playoff team, a wild card team, but they're not. This is not ever going to be a Super Bowl team. But they'll be better because the Giants have been down pretty bad the last, I don't know, 10 years.
I kind of worry about the CEO type in an organization that has so many different power centers. Like in a CEO type with a team where like the GM is remaining, like Joe Shane is for some reason still the GM of the Giants. Where like when the CEO is kind of a euphemism for he's not actually in charge of any of like the nitty gritty things. You know, other people are actually in charge of the most important stuff, like scheming the defense, calling the plays, you know, building the roster. And especially as I feel like, you know, a lot of like sunset year type CEO hires have gone extremely poorly, like extremely poorly. We're like, they're so entrenched at the previous place. Well, I'm just going to bring the exact same approach over here. It's going to be really, really easy. Yeah. You know, the approach that I started in 2008, surely that still works in 2025. And I know I'm always taking the dim view, but
you don't like John Harbaugh.
No, I don't. Neither do the Ravens. I absolutely love guys who all their biggest games they lose, you know, in like the most wrenching, clearly coaching based fashion. I'm
sorry, I don't put any stock in that. I don't. It's like, you know, you're talking about 1 game samples, okay? Like
I think it's built to a 5 or 6 game sample now, but yeah,
it has built to a 5 or 6 game sample. But also, he won a Super Bowl, so he hasn't lost every.
Oh man, let's look at the year 2013. I just remember that like it was yesterday
with Joe Flacco.
Yeah, Joe Flacco against Colin Kaepernick against you know, the other guy, Jim Harbaugh, who still is good, his brother.
Yeah. And I will say, I honestly like the most shocking, like you can't do this in big games coaching thing I've ever seen was the 49ers not knowing the Super Bowl rules. Like I, as a fan, am allowed to not know the Super Bowl.
That was
rules.
Crazy.
49ers not doing it. Like, even if it didn't affect their decision making, like it definitely affects the intensity of the moment at which you are playing. Mm-hmm. To me, the Ravens ones are like, Zay Flowers, can you just like not do the dumbest fumble ever again?
Yes,
like that's right. It's hard to put that one on Harbaugh. Like
it's hard to put all of them on Harbaugh.
Mark Andrews?
No, it's not. There's always games come down to one play, like not by accident. There's always a series of decisions that lead to one play being the decisive event. That is coaching. Like how often do games come down to one play for Sean McVay? Like Sean McVay is usually like one step ahead, and I feel like losing, like, man, it's just bad luck to keep losing on one play. Games swing on only one play when I feel like you don't build towards it properly. You know, I'm really coping here.
McVay, look, yes, I mean McVay would lose in those situations.
Also, he's won equally as many Super Bowls as Harbaugh, so like I don't know, like
he's been to more actually. And
congrats on going and losing. Really proud of that one. Hang the "We lost" banner. We lost late in the year, early in the next year, in fact.
If Mark Andrews doesn't have the yips, if Zay Flowers doesn't,
we're all trying to find the coach who can't stop featuring Mark Andrews.
Oh, stop! Mark Andrews is a good tight end.
Well, the one time he tried it was Zay Flowers, and didn't really work.
I don't know. I mean,
are we not at all concerned to see that the most important, the one person he truly had to get along with, besides the GM, was Lamar Jackson, and he did not. That might not have been Harbaugh's fault, obviously, but. You never hear that about Mike Tomlin, like the one guy I had to get along with, he couldn't do it. Well, Mike Tomlin got along with Antonio Brown, then he got along with Aaron Rodgers. Like Mike Tomlin gave
Brown the boot, to be clear. Like he just
gave it after about 4 years. But
like Tomlin, shout out to Tomlin for just any time a player is weird and annoying, being like, okay, we'll just win without you, go away, and it works every friggin' time. Obviously,
I would have. Let me be clear. I would have rather run back Tomlin 10 times out of 10 over Harbaugh.
Oh,
I had someone posted me the other day, like Tomlin's all floor and no ceiling. Like, yeah, it's pretty hard to have even a floor. You go 10-7 every year when you do not have a quarterback ever. And like if you have a 10-7 floor with Mason Rudolph and like the remains of Aaron Rodgers, imagine that guy would say like Lamar Jackson.
Well, then get a quarterback.
It's a lot easier said than done.
Just go get one.
No, they're always Denny. They're always 10-7. So they're always picking at number 22. You don't get quarterbacks there. For every Jackson Dart, there's 100 Kenny Pickett's in the 20 to 30.
Did they try more than Kenny Pickett though?
And they've only had 5 years. They've tried just about everything. They tried the old friend Mason
Draft
Rudolph.
Another one. Do it again, a second time.
First off, he's not the GM, Mike Tomlin.
I think he had a lot of influence.
Are we sure
there.
about
Like,
that?
He was kind of the GM, but I would rather run it back 10 times out of 10 with Tomlin.
You're basically saying you're like Mike Tomlin was a small bean. He didn't have any control over who was playing.
He did not run the front office. I don't think there's really ever been really any real indication
that's
that
a
he did.
huge. I mean, I don't know who that's on, but that's a huge disconnect. Then I feel like he should have some say.
I think Tomlin has become underrated at this point. I don't think he wants to coach. I think he's burned out.
Yeah,
We're burned out on this topic. We'll talk more about Harbaugh, I'm sure, when he immediately hires all of his old Ravens assistants. But it's time to talk about divisional round football. I'm fighting for respect as the AFC's number 1 seed. The Broncos are at least narrow home favorites against the Bills, Denny. The Bills started out as 1.5 point faves, but that flipped as the week wore on. Personally, and I'm just reading directly off the script at this point. Personally, guys, I think the Bills are going to win. What does Denver need to do to take this game at home, though?
it's crazy that we got a binoculars moment this early in the show as far as the topics go, but because the riffing took so long, the over actually hit on the time we'd get a binoculars moment. It's a weird setup. It's a weird game script for this podcast, but the over's hit there. Go ahead, Denny.
Yes. So I think that the Denver defense, which is a pretty extreme pass funnel, needs to shut down the short stuff that the Bills did pretty well with last week with Khalil Shakir, especially in the short areas, 12 targets. I believe caught all 12, 10 first read targets, which is insane. The most of the week. It's for fantasy purposes, if you're, doing DraftKings, whatever, like he's a PPR scam. I think he'll see a lot of involvement again this week. But if you can shut that down and force Josh Allen to throw to other people downfield, we're talking about like Brandon Cooks at this point.
He does it very frequently already. Throws to Brandon Cooks down the field.
But so Gabe Davis is done. Tyrell Shavers, their best receiver, is done.
Josh Palmer went on IR right before the playoffs as well. Curtis Samuel could come back. He's on IR right now and is questionable. Yeah, Denny's face lit up there.
Wow. All right, I'm in. So I think Brandon Cooks, he saw 40% of the air yards last week. Should see a lot of involvement here if Denver can stop the short area passing. But really, I mean, it profiles as another game where like James Cook probably can't be the centerpiece of the offense like he wasn't last week against the Jaguars. Like, to the Bills' credit, last week they said, look, we're not going to run James Cook into a brick wall 25 times. We're going to try to actually move the ball to score some points. And they did. So you got to credit them. I think they'll do the same thing this week.
I'm just looking real quick. The Broncos have scored more than 30 points one time since October. Like, do we really think the Bills are going to be held below 30 points in a divisional round? I feel like it does not augur well. None of this for the Broncos.
No, it's a bad and also the fact, we'll get into this, but like the way Bills play defense, it's bad for Bo Nix. Let's put it that way.
Not the way every team plays defense is bad for Bo Nix, but
this is particularly bad.
That's really bad. Denny did a good job laying that side of the game out. Kyle, what does a Bills victory look like? Is it just Josh Allen going Superman mode again?
I mean, especially if the game is high scoring, absolutely, because the Broncos defense against the run is obviously a great defense both ways, but they're just brutal against the run. They're the best team in the NFL at limiting yards before contact, which means James Cook, who ideally gets running lanes and hits home runs, is not going to have the aforementioned running lanes. I do think there is a very real possibility that if this game scores not that many points, it just means that the Bills don't have to do much on offense and Bo Nix got shut down. As Denny pointed out, I think there are some things the Bills can do that can really mess with Bo Nix. They're not a great team at generating pressure. They're like slightly above league average, but Bo Nix is one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL under pressure. He doesn't take sacks, but he just checks down and is really inaccurate at checking down. He has one of the lowest ADOTs in the NFL under pressure. He has one of the lowest completion rates in the NFL under pressure. So he's taking very low value throws and reducing the value of them even more by not completing them. He also has an above average turnover worthy play rate under pressure. He's like fifth in the NFL interceptions under pressure. So you won't see a bunch of sacks, right? But you'll just see a bunch of incompletions, maybe some potential turnovers. And these are all drive killers, even if it's not the turnovers, right? Just the, 2nd and 10 incompletion is going to be a drive killer for him. And also there's a chance, I don't know, I haven't seen his final practice status. There's a chance Ed Oliver is back for the Bills. He he and Curtis Samuel are both on IR, designated to return, practicing, and questionable. Getting him back that could take the Bills from like a slightly above average pass rush just in terms of pressure rate this year to somewhere close to that top 10 range. And that'd be a serious problem for Bo Nix. It would take something that could be a problem if the Bills work it right too. It just will be a problem.
Do you want to hear like a first take type of take from me on this game?
Oh, yeah.
Because I think that it is totally imperative and critical for the Broncos to have a better first half than a second half. And they need to score a lot. Like they need a 20-point first half because the Bills, I don't know if there's anything really to this. They seem to really lock down and adjust in the second half. Like they have been like a second half defense all year. And like, as we pointed out, it's already a bad matchup for Bo Nix. Like they're going to adjust to whatever Bo Nix is doing well in the first. I feel like every team needs to get up to a hot start in the playoffs. Like spoiler alert. I feel like it's especially critical for the Broncos this weekend against the Bills though.
You're right. If the Broncos come out flat, which they've come out flat, basically, like you pointed out in your article, I think last week, Pat,
whole month of December.
Yeah, they come out flat against everybody, against good teams, against bad teams, whatever. If they do that again, it's going to feel very over, like pretty early. So they need to come out strong. I have a feeling that Sean Payton is not just going to lay down as far as like play calling goes. He might get creative. I expect him to use RJ Harbaugh quite a bit here against a Bills defense that profiles as a run funnel. I will say about Bo Nix just real quick. So the Bills play one of the highest rates of two high safety coverages, right? So I looked at, and this will be in my column on Friday on the site, at Bo Nix against two high safeties. He's 31st out of 40 in accuracy against those coverages. He's one of the worst in adjusted yards per attempt. Like that stuff, like it just baits him into checking down, like Kyle said. And I just don't know how the Broncos passing game will succeed here.
They don't have dynamic players to check down to either. Like Marvin Mims doesn't really seem to be like a factor anymore. RJ Harvey's fine in that regard, but this is not an offense for like we got Tyreek, we got Jalen Waddle, we got Devin Achan. Like you're not checking down. We have Amon-Ra. If Jahmyr Gibbs, you're not checking down to anyone who's going to change the game.
Yeah,
that is bad. And Denny, so you alluded to what I wrote in my article. The Broncos had their bye in week 12. In week 13, they had the 1-point victory over the Commanders in Sunday Night Football, where it came down to the literal final play. A Commanders team that was starting Marcus Mariota.
Mm-hmm.
The following week, 1 touchdown victory over the Raiders. They did beat the Packers the following week, 8 points. Then they lose to the Jags. They took Chris Oladokun took them to the wire on Christmas night. And then they rather infamously, week 18, they struggled to put away the second and third team Los Angeles Chargers. The Broncos only scored 19 points in that game. They've not been playing their best football down the stretch. They have been winning. Like everything I just described was a victory. But basically the ways they were winning after their bye are not going to work against the Buffalo Bills. They need their best offensive effort in a long time.
I would just say scoreboard.
It's true. It's true.
Just look at the scoreboard, man.
It is true. Look at Denny, this 2-game slate. Which Broncos are you prioritizing? ?
Do you mean like just for the Saturday slate or?
Yeah, I mean it's Saturday. Well, they're playing on Saturday, right? I guess.
Then you just
4-game slate too.
Okay.
Pretend the question he asked is the one you wanted him to ask.
Okay.
That is true, actually. If you're talking the 4-game slate too, that
okay.
actually also works.
So which Broncos? I think this shapes up really as an ugly matchup for Cortland Sutton. So he's someone I'm fading. In lieu of Sutton, I like RJ Harbaugh and I like Pat Bryant, who has a pretty low ADOT and could just be the beneficiary of a bunch of checkdowns, a bunch of short passes. I guess you could say Evan Ingram, but man, oh man, it is really bleak for everyone.
The Broncos curtailed the Troy Franklin experiment towards the end of the year too. They had to rekindle that fire in weeks, I think it was like 16, 17, because Pat Bryant was really concussed. But back in week 18, once again, they just seemed to value Pat Bryant as like the clear wide receiver too.
Pat Bryant, they compared to Michael Thomas after he was drafted.
Yeah.
Many are saying I desperately need him in my sicko league that goes through the playoffs. He's
really
one of my only receivers left.
Hey man, You could get 8 catches for 60 yards here easily.
Believe me, I would be texting my brother like hell yes.
Isn't
Dude,
there
I
a
knew
thing
it.
where
I knew it, man.
you only start scoring at like 8 catches though? Because it's the distance scoring league, right? So you
Sarah,
need specifically that
Sarah
8.
points for fewer than 8 catches. Sarah points for fewer than 100 yards. This is real man's fantasy football. That's what it is.
Pat Bryant's got you, dog.
Yeah,
Oh my
Pat Bryant. Pat, we are no pressure, Pat Bryant. Kyle, which Bills are you prioritizing in DFS this weekend?
I do think that we're probably, depending on which slate you're playing, if it's like the 4-game slate, we're probably getting like Christian Kirk turbo chalk because he's going to end up being the Texans wide receiver 1 after last week going for like well over 100. I think he probably can't be that much better of a play than a guy like Brandon Cooks, who's going to be his team's clear wide receiver 2 with a quarterback who is just like, obviously, like CJ Stroud's a fine quarterback, but I would much rather play a quarterback playing for Josh Allen on the road where they're going to be throwing a lot, as opposed to playing probably a very ugly, admittedly, number 1 wide receiver of CJ Stroud. So I think like that's the most interesting pivot here. Dalton Kincaid's just like a banged up part-time player whose efficiency has kind of dropped in the second half of the year. On the season, it still looks very good, but he's just struggling to play through these injuries. I know he scored last week, but he wasn't doing a ton other than that. So to me, it really just is, you could go chalk, relatively chalk. Khalil Shakir, I think that makes plenty of sense. Brandon Cooks is probably the pivot. Beyond that, I really don't think there's like a third receiver I just have any confidence in. Like sure, you're going to get Keon Coleman at 1.3% rostered. Is that worth it? Maybe like technically in some sense it is, but not worth it for me.
What is Ty Johnson's status for this game?
He practiced today.
Oh, really? Because I was going to say he was double DNP, but they did not rule him out as of today. So it seems like probably like a legit questionable if that's the case.
Ty Johnson could be like fairly enormous X factor in this game,
Yeah,
in both
you're
real
right.
life and DFS. It's kind of his thing in the playoffs. By the way, you mentioned Christian Kirk being chalk. Tell you want to know what the most dangerous thing in the world is Christian Kirk with expectations.
Yeah.
Second anyone expects Christian Kirk to do something, he then does absolutely nothing. We're going to do a little something real quick. We're going to take a break, and then we'll be right back after this. The countdown is on to NBA All-Star Weekend. Vote daily with your NBA ID to help shape the U.S. versus the world All-Star rosters in the NBA app. Every vote gives you a chance to win a free trip to the NBA All-Star 2026 experience. Catch the action February 13th through 15th on NBC and streaming on Peacock. It's in LA this year. Super Bowl in LA next year, in Santa Clara this year. By the way, I'd be remiss. I don't know why I'm bringing this up now. What did you guys think of me as the Peacock?
I liked it. I liked it very much. So for those of you who may have missed it, Pat went to NBC Sports Studios, went to the fantasy football happy hour set, and surprised the guys. They didn't even know it was going to be him, but he wore a peacock mascot outfit, and then it surprised them on set to talk about his winning of both Barry leagues, both leagues hosted by Matthew Barry, redraft and then guillotine. Pat won both, and I'm not mad. I'm not upset about it. I'm actually happy for him. But what I admire most was your sweating through it, because you looked so hot, and I say that in a way that means like you just.
He says that in a way to compliment your character.
just pouring sweat, and like you said online the other day, you see how an offensive lineman can lose 12 pounds in a game.
Yes, this is not a joke. 10 to 15 minutes in the show, I was like, "Am I gonna pass out?" Because it was so hot. There was sweat running down. But then, thankfully, in extreme temperatures, your body usually achieves equilibrium. It achieved equilibrium. I stopped getting hotter. I reached maximum hotness levels. And,
I was gonna say, I think what you're describing is being in shock.
I was having, what's the reverse of hypothermia? That's what,
probably just hyperthermia.
I was thinking, wow, wouldn't it be great to have heat stroke on the Matthew Barry set? And I'm sure I would easily live that down.
But yeah, you were looking good in the peacock outfit, and you had some good zingers. So I thought it was a good overall appearance.
I'm so desperate to have good zingers. So I like to hear you say that. Adam points out, Adam convinced me to wear gym shorts underneath the peacock. That's about as clutch a recommendation as anyone has ever made. My two final thoughts. Understandably so. They're like, do a little dance or do a little jig every time you bring out the awards envelope. After about two or three, I'm like, I'm out of dances.
Yeah.
I'm totally out of dance. Like
That's
I
so
haven't
funny.
danced since 2007. I'm out of. I tried to do the gritty, and they did not approve of my gritty attempt. It was abhorrent. Many are calling it my attempt at the gritty.
Oh my God! Wait, did I miss that?
Yeah, because you wouldn't have known what it was. You would have no clue I was trying to do the gritty.
Was it like a Mike
Denny's like, I
style?
saw the dance where you were having a seizure, but I didn't see the gritty. And you're like, no, that one right there.
No, I was like trying to do like the gritty, like via memory of a memory. Like I think this is the gritty. And one time, one of my celebrations that did not go well either. I doubled over, like I was huffing and puffing. And they were like, I think he's puking. And I was like, oh, that one didn't land. We got to move on. Final thing I'll say: that peacock suit, I assumed was from like a local. This is not a joke. Like a local costume shop or something. It is owned by the NBC Corporation and was sent over from 30 Rockefeller Center. Not a joke.
Shut up.
Get
Are you
out.
serious?
NBC, we own a peacock suit.
You were
So-
basically on SNL.
I
I was
was.
gonna say, has it appeared on anything meaningful? Is
I'm
it like-
sure it has.
Oh my god, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, there's Steven had to go get it from 30 Rock per Adam.
Right.
So
Chevy Chase wore that in 1978.
it smelled like it. They tried. It was in good working, but the thing was drenched. Not to get too graphic, but like I kind of felt bad. Like, you guys sure you should put this back in the box already?
You're like, hey, gas station's over there. I got some matches, so just burn it when you're done. And we're good.
So yes. All right. Anyways, I had a lot of fun. Thanks to Barry and the gang for having me on the show. Thank you to Kyle Shanahan for giving us some compelling football. We thought that was maybe the most lost game before it began since Dolphins Chiefs and that infamous wild card round game a few years ago. No, 49ers showed up in Philly. They won. They had the Eagles doing soul searching. The Eagles, that's all they do, is soul searching. But stuck in a never-ending loop of NFC West matchups, Kyle. The Niners and Seahawks meet up in Seattle with the Hawks operating as touchdown home favorites, whereas Seattle is rested and ready. San Francisco is walking wounded after its aforementioned upset. What is left of the 49er skill core, and what would another Niners upset look like?
Well, what's left? No George Kittle, obviously torn Achilles. He will presumably be replaced by Jake Tunges, who didn't.
George Kittle's questionable, by the way.
Honestly, if you were like, they think he's going to play through it, I'd be like, yeah, that checks out. He's George Kittle. He can do that.
I'm shocked they're not claiming he's questionable yet. George Kittle out.
It's like, well, he won't play this week, but they haven't placed him on IR yet. And normally they would just put him right on IR. So George Kittle out this week. Ricky Pearsall is presumably on the positive side of questionable. He's been practicing in a limited capacity. But man, this, like, I believe it's a while back at least, it was a PCL injury plus an ankle injury now. Just has had no ability to like play through it consistently. He comes back, he gets banged up. At this point, though, there will be no coming back if it doesn't happen now. Like, their season is obviously, their big underdogs here, is on the line. That was the case last week. He didn't practice. He's practicing this week. I think he plays. That would mean we probably don't see as much DeMarcus Robinson. Last week, we got a monster air yard share of 37%, a very good target share of 23%, well over 100 yards. Like, it was very weird for the entire weekend slate to be defined by Christian Kirk and DeMarcus Robinson. But
obviously, that was
it
Shanny's
was.
Super Bowl, by the way.
I know.
Absolutely.
Finally featured D-Rob.
You can imagine Matt LaFleur with Malik Willis at his side thinking, I want to do that for you, son. That's when that guy gets in, it's going to feel like that, but with you. Because these guys just love finding a backup.
Shanny was like, how can I make this game about me? And he was like, I'm going to target DeMarcus Robinson 14 times.
DeMarcus Robinson on that first catch, I think it was the second play of the game, 61 yards, was more yards than he had in a game all season.
Wow.
Also, not to rain on his parade, right? But man, he could not have made it another yard. I have never seen a guy have such a long play that felt as long as that long play did.
Has he not been exercising? Like, what's he doing?
Kyle, are we still talking? I can't remember.
Nah, I mean, how do they win? You guys mentioned it on, I don't know, maybe we mentioned it on the whatever show, the Sunday night show. But I feel like the very obvious way is, at least as far as your defensive matchup goes, is to create havoc for Sam Darnold. It's a spot he's always struggled in. This year, he's been incredible when not pressured. He's been not like a complete abomination when pressured, but historically, that is how you get to him. It's just that San Francisco does not have the horses on defense to really do that. Not to say they can't, in a one-game sample, find ways to get pressure. It would be like a crowning achievement for Robert Saleh to really shake Sam Darnold in this game, but they have not been able to accomplish that all year. So I do think ultimately they just kind of need to dig deep and win a shootout with Demarcus Robinson as the number 2 receiver. That is just a bleak thing to say, but they could do it. They really could. They're as well coached a team as there is. They're as talented at running back and
that's about it.
Yeah, that's about it.
So that's about it. But
left tackle Trent Williams. Oh, that was my last note. Trent Williams, maybe not like the best. Honestly, he still could be the best left tackle in the NFL. He's practicing. I think he's been practicing this entire week. He should be good to go, and that really does. Like I said, still as old as he is, one of, if not the best left tackle. So that would make a difference.
The 49ers, 2 paths to winning this game. As Kyle laid out, win a shootout or a few bounces go your way. The only way they could really plan to win would be Robert Saleh putting Sam Darnold in a blender, which is possible. It's happened this year. I can't remember if the 49ers really did it, but Sam Darnold, he's kind of like like a bug zapper. A bug goes up to it. Sam Darnold sees a blender. He's like, "What's this?" Like,
I'd like to get in that all the way.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny and true.
Yeah, that's how the 49ers win this game probably. But I think Kyle, that would be in an ideal world. It's not going to be an ideal world. They're going to have to win a shootout, which will not be easy, Denny Carter. Not a whole lot to say about the Seahawks offense. We know what they do. It's run-based. It's JSN-based. You would think at some point they're going to finally start hitting some of these big plays to Rashid Shaheed. But so the backfield is always what's most important for the Seahawks. Is the status quo coming into the postseason, the approach between Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet, and just maybe any other stray thoughts you have on the Seattle offense, Denny.
Yeah, it is status quo, and status quo might be more interesting than normal for fantasy purposes. I know this is only 4 games late, so your choices are limited, obviously. But neither Charbonnet nor Walker is going to be super highly rostered this week in DraftKings tournament. So I think they're worth getting into your lineup in some fashion. I'd prefer Charbonnet because he sees the goal line inside the 10 work. But what I mean by more interesting is that in both games against San Francisco this year, the Seahawks were giga, turbo, nuclear, run heavy, like super run heavy. And in the second game, so the first game was an abomination on every level in week 1. And in week 18 against the Niners, it actually worked. And Walker and Charbonnet combined for 180 yards on 33 combined attempts, and they split those almost right down the middle. Of course, Charbonnet scores a touchdown because, of course, he gets to the inside the 10 work. So I think that they'll try that again. And honestly, just from watching a lot of Seahawks this year, I'm pretty sure that they're going to do everything they can to take this game out of Sam Darnold's hands. My guy is not good in these situations. No, and between the ears, not his best aspect. So I think that they will be very run heavy to the point where they're going to keep the Niners in this game. I really don't think this is going to be a rout for the Seahawks. And in fact, I wouldn't be shocked if the Niners just straight up won this thing.
I was losing faith in my Seahawks prediction. As you guys, not that I predicted they were going to win, but that it's going to require a lot for the Niners to win this game. Because as you were talking, so first off, I forgot that it was weeks 1 and 18 that these two teams played. The aggregate score of these two games was 26-20, Seattle. 46 points. The total in this game is 45.5. They barely hit the over on that in 2 games. They hit it by half of a point. And yet Darnold, I feel like too, the Seahawks, they rely on big plays on offense. And that always works until it doesn't. And then they do seem like the kind of team that has a formula that works really well over the course of a larger sample size, 18 games. And then they have the kind of formula, they get behind 13-0 in the second quarter. It's like a huge, yikes situation for Sam Darnold and the Seahawks.
Yeah, and I mean, it's going to be JSN. It's going to be these running backs. I don't know who else is really going to touch the ball here for the Seahawks, unless things get really out of hand. In which case, you could get some other guys. I know I'm jumping ahead here on the agenda.
Yeah, Denny, just any sicko Seahawks for the 2 or 4 game slates?
It really wouldn't be Shaheed because he's not exactly like the air yards eater here, which I thought he would be. But
he's been a disappointing addition. It's actually
super disappointing. Yeah, I mean, I know from a real football standpoint, he's had some big punt returns. I get that and I acknowledge that. But from like a production, offensive, fantasy centric standpoint, it has really not worked out. AJ Barner would be next in line, I think, as far as interest goes. But, I mean, Jackson Smith and Jigba could see 50% of the targets here. I mean, it really could be one of those games because you know how teams operate in the playoffs. It's like, okay, we're not messing around anymore. Like, we are jamming this ball to our best players. We saw it last week with Puka Nacua.
Yeah, every NFL coach becomes Tom Thibodeau. Like 6 guys are touching this ball the entire postseason.
Yeah.
Like that's how we're doing it. And Rashid Shaheed, the punt returns. I heard he had some big returns. I try to time it so I never get back into my office, into the room until after the returns are over.
I know.
Like I sit down for the first real play on offense, so I didn't see any of that. Kyle, any sicko 49ers? They're kind of all sicko at this point, as you were alluding to earlier.
That's kind of what I was going to say, is that, like, is the starting tight end a sicko play? Because Jake Tunges will be the starting tight end in this game. In the regular season, he averaged just over 12 PPR points per game. A little touchdown fuel, but you got to give him some credit for the touchdowns. Averaged just over 12 PPR points per game. Only saw 3 targets, and he only caught one of those 3 targets in the wild card round. But it's a mid-game injury. I don't think we can take his sort of relatively modest production mid-game and just say, well, I guess he's just not going to produce this second time around. I think with a week of practice, he'll be much more involved. Not even sicko. It's just he's the starting tight end on an offense that's really good. He's not going to be the most involved, right? He's not going to just subsume the Kittle role, but he's a pretty good play. So I would say that's sicko adjacent. And I actually just think out of Ricky Pearsall and Demarcus Robinson, if Ricky Pearsall plays, no one's going to think he's going to do anything because he's coming off injury. Probably a decent tournament play. Demarcus Robinson, somewhere on the radar of like Brandon Cooks, really sicko, not going to get a lot of play. Christian Kirk, less. I mean, he's just going to be chalky, probably obviously going to get a lot of play. He's like the middle ground of those guys, I'd imagine.
How live is Pearsall to play in this game, by the way? I'm really glad you mentioned it.
Oh, he's got back-to-back limited practices. We don't have his Thursday report yet, but I would put it at like 60% he plays. Like he's practicing the entire week. Limited, but he's practicing the entire week up to a playoff game.
He almost seems like he's like in an arthritic situation where like I gotta rest the knee like 2 or 3 weeks, then I can give you 1 game, then I'm out 2 or 3 weeks. Pretty bizarre.
It really does feel like that. Yep.
Injury situation seems like the most obvious is going to need surgery player in the entire NFL as we head into the division round. We're heading into Bears Rams when we return right after this. Sunday night, Matthew Stafford and the Rams head to the Windy City for a battle with Caleb Williams and the Bears. Who will survive and advance to the NFC Championship game? Find out as we lead you up to kickoff at Soldier Field at 6 p.m. Eastern, only on NBC and Peacock. I panicked. I'm like, no game's going to kick off at 6 p.m. Eastern. Like, this promo's wrong. And I remember that's what they do in the divisional round and the championship round. I got out my phone because I wanted to look real quick. Sunday, high in Chicago, 19.
It'll feel like 6. It'll feel like 6.
There is no wind emoji right now, but there's always wind. As we mentioned, is literally the Windy City. And my God, it's going to be truly awful weather here, but it's going to be an amazing game. The most fascinating game of the weekend is in Chicago, where the Never Say Die Bears find themselves as 3.5-point underdogs versus the listing Rams, Denny Carter. The Bears keep pulling Houdini acts against bewildered opponents, but this is the toughest ask yet. What would a Chicago victory look like? But Denny, this is actually kind of cruel to ask Denny what a Bears victory.
I know. I feel like you're trolling me.
Too unbearable for him to even consider.
So what Pat was referencing was me posting on Blue Sky about Ben Johnson giving a not so traditional handshake to Matt LaFleur after the game on Saturday. I was told that this was a normal handshake, that this is how people shake hands. I personally don't buy it.
Denny said, try it on me. No, if you see me in person, try it. I'll tell you if it's normal. I'll just normally tell you if it's normal. Try it.
But then that shifted. So when I was like, no, that's not true. They said, no, well, Matt LaFleur did it first. And so I guess, turnabout is fair play.
Not to get, but Denny had to take, this is kind of mean we're quote unquote so soft that even the quote unquote libs of Blue Sky, like, dude, come on, man. It was kind of cool. It was kind of cool, man.
Yeah, no, universal.
Cry more. Like Denny, I'm a huge fan. I've never even used this phrase before, but cry more.
Yeah. No, truly, universally loathed take. Man, Ben Johnson is great, has done nothing wrong. He, you know what it is, and Pat, you said this over text, and you're right. The problem for me in this scenario is that nobody respects Matt LaFleur.
No one, literally no one.
And so I'm who am I fighting for? I'm fighting for a guy everyone thinks is a joke, you know.
Even Matt LaFleur's like, Denny, you don't have to fight for me. It was
yeah,
fine
right.
eventually.
I guess
It's
I'm just
fine.
gonna lose every time.
I think I've done this once or twice before. I can do a super loud woo. I almost did it, but because when Ben Johnson did the quick handshake, he was doing like one of the like super loud like cowboy woos.
Yeah,
it was very demeaning.
it was super
He did demean
annoying.
him.
He's an annoying guy. He's like a deeply annoying man. Anyway, how are they going to win?
Why don't you cry?
I think they're going to win by keeping it on the ground, being conservative, and hitting big plays when the opportunity strikes. And what I mean by that is really like depending on Caleb Williams doing the things that he did late in the game against the Packers, which is rolling out, making throws that only 5 to 7 quarterbacks can make right now.
Probably fewer than that, to be honest. 3 to 4.
Okay. I mean, I'll go with that. Mahomes-ish, sort of plays
For sure.
Do I think that's a great formula? Not really. Because I mean, you're depending on like miracle throws.
You are.
But I do think that this will ride a lot on the Bears running game here.
The miracle throws thing is difficult too in conditions like this because when it gets that cold, this is why I feel like the Packers and the Aaron Rodgers Packers in particular, quote unquote, choked so much at home in the playoffs. When it's that cold, it's not a home field advantage. It just makes the game like a coin flip, essentially. Like it's like a great like leveling factor. And that way it is good for the Bears, they're home dogs, that it basically brings the Rams more down to their level. Like when you can't feel your body, it's a lot harder to do things like set your base and then hit the throw down the field. And that is going to make it even more difficult because it was cold last weekend, but I think it was like 32 degrees. It was fine. Like 32, very cold, of course, when the sun is down. But this is like exponentially colder. And it's going to be harder to pull off those kind of crazy plays. That includes for the Rams, Kyle. It's been a while since they truly impressed. But the offense is still flying pretty high. What kind of matchup is this for Sean McVay's team? And what is the approach going to look like?
Yeah, hopefully, if we can get by without any wind, that'd be nice, right? Because like I do agree, the cold is going to kind of level things out. Just in the way you look at like the absurd snow games, and you're like, there's no one has any advantage. This is children playing a children's game at this point.
Yes.
No one can do anything. I hope it's just a cold game and it's not that much of a leveling of the playing field, because that is the case, and it's just a game where it's a little cold, but you can still execute your offensive game plan. The Rams should be able to put up points in spades. And I think it'll specifically in this game, I mean, it's always going to come a bit through Puka, but it really does set up for the perfect Davante Adams game. The Bears as a defense are dead, actually they're second last, I believe, in defending 10 to 19 yards downfield, like good intermediate chunk plays. They are nearly worst in the league by yards per attempt. On 20 plus yards downfield, they're still bottom 10 in the NFL. They're actually an okay defense at defending short stuff behind the line of scrimmage, short stuff. But I do think once they start to get their corners pressed downfield, their corners just are not going to be able to hang. And that will specifically benefit Davante Adams. Like obviously everything's good for Puka. He just is locked in for 10 plus targets every game. But this is a great Davante Adams script. His 22 deep targets during the regular season led the Rams. He missed the final month of the season and was still easily the team's most important deep threat. He, by far, by a massive margin, led the team in intermediate targets as well. And that is, again, despite not playing a month of football. Once you go to move beyond 10 yards downfield when you're hunting for big plays, just hunting for first downs, it's all Davante Adams, even with them having Puka. So if they can take advantage of that weakness of the Bears, it will most likely come through Davante Adams. You're still obviously playing Puka. This isn't a knock on Puka, but I do think it's a reason that you can have more than just him get home this week. Whereas Adams last week, I think he had like a usable like 12 or 13 points, but this could be an explosion game for him.
So the principals and the Rams were always interesting, of course. They're one of the narrowest, like highest upside, like biggest name skill cores in the NFL. What about the sickle plays for the DFS tournaments this weekend, Kyle?
I thought it was, I mean, we'll have to check the practice report. Terrence Ferguson is supposed to be playing. McVay said earlier in the week, Terrence Ferguson is supposed to be playing. He's probably their third string tight end at this point. Tyler Higbee and Colby Parkinson have played too well.
Does anyone ever like the player more than Sean McVay likes Tyler Higbee?
He loves Tyler Higbee.
Like,
he loves him.
Yeah.
Those two guys are just like perfectly normal. Hope I get a touchdown kind of DFS plays. If you need something for like the Millie Maker kind of stuff, Terrence Ferguson was weirdly the team's second most targeted intermediate receiver, obviously tight end this year by like a meaningful amount too. So, it was deep targets, not intermediate targets. So he's got like a very low target share that is very high ceiling for what it is if he's playing. Other than that, they run so much 2 and 3 tight end that there is not a third receiver in this game that I'm going to be caring about. So the two more typical starting tight ends, you're hoping for a touchdown. It is what it is. Devontae Adams takes some of that touchdown equity away. Terrence Ferguson is almost more of a showdown play, but he's one that I'm a little interested in.
Oh, Denny, Bears priorities in DFS, other than none of them, since you can't root for them.
I can root for Colston Loveland if he wins me money in DFS. 28 targets for Loveland over the past 2 games. No other Bears catcher has more than 10 targets over that stretch. He leads in air yards by a good margin, which you just don't really see from tight ends ever. No. He is the entire passing game right now and is really hard to fade. The Rams aren't particularly good or bad against tight ends, but I just feel like it's chalk that I'm willing to eat, especially if you're going to stack this game. If you're going to go Stafford, Adams, Puka, you throw in Loveland in there. It's expensive, but I think that you need, like, if you're making the bet that the Rams are going to score a lot of points here, then you need to also bet that Loveland's going to see 10 targets. He's a nice play, but you asked for sicko plays, correct?
Yeah, whatever. Yeah. Priorities. I said Bears priorities. Swift is a priority. Monungai is sort of a trap back between the 20s kind of guy, so like I'm just not super interested in him right now. Bears. Any Luther?
Not really.
Yeah, our guy's not really doing it, but
no, he's not. His route rate is not very good, and his target per route run has dropped off.
It's just so jumbled too. When they're at full strength, it's just kind of too jumbled.
Yeah, with the Dunze out, it was clarified a little bit where you could be like, okay, like I can see if I squint, which I'm doing right now. I could squint. I could see Burden having a nice game. I squint all the time and I can't see it anymore. So we're gonna.
Cal, who's your highest rostered Bears wide receiver this weekend though?
Probably still Burden.
Receiver.
Yes,
actually,
receiver. Yeah, sorry.
No, I'll go with Rome. I think there's an explosion game in there for Rome if we just set the sample size to infinite.
Also, you're talking about very minimal rostership for Rome Odunze here.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because he hasn't done anything. But
Kyle
said he's overdue to do something. Ben Johnson, by the way, like listeners to the show will know, last summer it's kind of getting Josh McDaniels vibes like a little bit. And what we got instead was like actually scary, actually good, actually successful Josh McDaniels. Josh McDaniels' whole thing was trying to be a hardo because everyone's like, dude, you're Josh McDaniels. Whereas Ben Johnson, a little bit scary. He says F you to the opposing coach, like kind of right in his face. And kind of interesting. Denny can't deal with it. The NFL can't deal with it. We will not be able to deal with Drake May getting eliminated from the playoffs because we all love him. The Houston Texans demolished the Steelers in the wild card round, Kyle. They remain on the road on a short week for the divisional. They're headed to New England after the Patriots held serve against the Chargers. Not an overly impressive Patriots performance, but you survive in advance this time of year. How much more complicated does this get for Houston if Nico Collins is out, as is appearing very likely? What do we expect the Texans' offensive approach to be?
Yeah, Nico Collins didn't practice Wednesday, was not spotted at practice on Thursday as of this recording. That's pretty on the wrong side of questionable. Not impossible he shows up to practice Friday and they try and stick him through it. I don't think, I guess Friday wouldn't even, whatever. He's not playing, man. I don't think he's playing. Even as much as we kind of joke about players skate by a little more on the concussion protocol in the postseason, I don't think he's going to play, and I think that will prompt the Texans, who went run heavy last week, to continue to go extremely run heavy. -7% pass rate over expected. Then they lose not only their number one receiver, but the entire engine of their passing attack. They, up until last week, did not have a clear wide receiver two. I still don't know if they do have a clear wide receiver two.
They don't.
Right? Of course.
Christian Kirk is the most insane trap play I've ever seen this weekend.
Okay, you said it, but I'd like to co-sign. I'd like to co-sign this bill. So they lose Nico Collins, and then they face a Pats team that has faced a -5% pass rate over expected this year. Teams have run a lot against the Pats. Pats got a lot worse against the run in the second half of the year, too. Part of that was them losing guys to injury who showed up last week, literally were playing last week. and then didn't. And then they obviously more or less shut down just Kamani Vidal. Martin Hampton didn't really play. So, I think it's even despite maybe the Pats being a better run defense than they were in the second half of the year. I don't think the Texans have much of a choice. Like, what are they going to do? Go out and try and redo the Christian Kirk explosion week? Maybe they do. I don't think it goes well for them.
I was made aware of something this week from Patriots fans. And, I will say with fans of NFL teams, when they say, look, I've watched this quarterback every week, so I know this. And I want to say, look, I watch him too. You don't know any more than I do or anybody else, right? What fans know most of all is the very little stuff, the minutia, right? And part of that minutia is defensive line and offensive line injuries, okay? Which, nerds like me, I'm not paying a lot of attention to that. Now, I said last week with Pat on the preview show, I said, look, the Patriots run defense is vulnerable. They're giving up this many yards before contact and all this stuff, EPA, success rate, blah, blah, blah. Well, Milton Williams returned from IR last week and totally blew that whole thing off the map, right? And
I think he wasn't the only one, too. I think they got one of like Robert Spillane or Christian Ellis
Spillane.
back for that one, wasn't it? Because all these guys have been a little banged up in the second half of the year.
So yeah, they got them off of IR. They totally shut down the Chargers rushing attack, which is not great. Don't get me wrong.
They shut down Kamani Vidal, so take that with a grain of salt.
But what I mean is all these metrics that say, oh, the Patriots are weak on as a rush defense, I'm throwing those out. And I'm saying, no, they're back to an elite run defense, which they were for the first half of the season before these injuries started piling up. So the shift has happened. I am very hesitant to play Woody Marks here just because of this.
I think they're just running him into a stone wall a lot this game. I think, like I said, I think they probably lean run heavy. They did last week. Then they lost the number one receiver. I don't think they lean success heavy when they run.
Woody Marks a lot of keep him honest runs this weekend, probably. Denny was not the most impressive wild card round for Drake May. And is this a nightmare matchup in the Texans? What are realistic expectations for the Patriots offense faced an elite defense last week? And yeah, we're not very good.
Texans play a lot of one high safety. Drake May throws a deep against one high safety. And I'll explain that further in my piece. But it makes Kayshon Boutte interesting as the air yards guy.
They've wheeled in pews to both Pat and I's offices so we can kneel at the pews like I did in Catholic church when I was a young man.
Yeah, so I'm glad you're into that. I tend to think that the Patriots are not going to be stupid and try to establish it here, but I could be wrong. Could Mike Vrabel could say, no, we're going to run it and we're going to be safe and we're going to take advantage defensively, whatever. But I see the Patriots being somewhat pass heavy here. So Kayshon Boutte's interesting. Hunter Henry's really interesting. If you're gonna stack May, I think you need to go all out. I think you Diggs, Hunter Henry, and Boutte together. Maybe even Ramondre Stevenson, who is really the only guy who's running real routes and seeing targets out of the backfield.
They're lighting incense in Kyle's office right now as he begins his Patriots vigil. Denny, you kind of laid it out there. Are those your Patriots, the DFS priorities?
Yeah.
You're picking Ramondre in the eternal Ramondre Travion battle.
Yeah. And it's because of the pass game involvement. Travion Henderson's path to fantasy relevance this weekend is a long run for a touchdown. And can he do that? Yes, he can.
I was in a chat with Pat Crane, who you might know from being on the show like twice.
I remember.
I was like, it's really cool that he can score from the 50 because he's not scoring from the 5.
That's right. He's not scoring from the 5. He's not getting check downs. He's not playing third downs. Like, he's not playing the 2-minute offense. So it's like, what does he do? Like, what am I depending on? There's so many outs for Stevenson. I will say, I think rostership will reflect this reality, though. Just keep that in mind.
And Travion, if you want like tournament winning upside, Travion's going to provide that no matter what.
I think that's
even if the downside is very low and the floor is very low. Kyle, you kind of we think Christian Kirk could be a trap play. We think it's going to be a difficult week for the Texans on the ground. What are your priorities in DFS then amidst that landscape? Jaden Higgins did a lot in the second half of the season, never really spiked a week, but who are your Texans priorities?
Oh, I mean, there are truly no priorities. They're like, have you played a very weird stack? Did you play a Bo Nix stack? Then sure. Like, Kirk's fine. You can do that. If you wouldn't just jam chalk before this, if you played the what was it, Stafford, Puka, Devontae, Colson, Loveland, all the good plays at once, I think Higgins is a fine play. I think the frustrating thing is in week 18, they sat Nico Collins, obviously resting him, but the reports were specifically so they could get their rookies more run, which they did in week 18. And I was like, oh, they're ramping up Jaden Higgins. They're ramping up Jalen Noel to be more involved in the offense as things get really tight in the playoffs. And then both those guys just ran fewer than half the routes in the wild card round in which they lost Nico Collins. I think Higgins is still viable, especially because he profiles specifically as the Nico Collins replacement. He played that role earlier in the year when Nico Collins was banged up as well, but it's a super thin play because he didn't even run half the routes last week. The routes play that is not Kirk would end up being Xavier Hutchinson, but I can't bring myself to do that. I will note Dalton Schultz, probably not super popular, didn't do a ton last week, but he's been a guy, he finished the regular seasons, like the PPR tight end 7. He just goes out and typically racks up 6 or 7 catches. He has a great chance to do that as an underdog without Nico Collins. I think he's probably the tight end pivot that I actually care about on the entire slate, probably.
If I'm searching for Texans rookie cope, I guess you could say, the number one receiver gets hurt on the road against Mike Tomlin. Maybe not the best time to throw Jaden Higgins or Jalen Noel into the fire. Christian Kirk, say what you will, he's experienced everything there is to experience in the NFL. He can play at every level of the field, maybe not great, but not surprising. Basically, the veteran took over in that situation, and that maybe Denny, they make a greater emphasis on the young guys this weekend.
It makes sense. I meant to point this out earlier. The Steelers are particularly awful against slot receivers, and Christian Kirk ran almost all of his routes from the slot last week. So they really, the Texans very clearly wanted to hammer that advantage, and they did, and good for them. Patriots not so bad against the slot. So I'm thinking that's another reason to fade Kirk.
What a really fascinating slate. We hope we broke it down from every angle. We'll probably think of one or two that we forgot as soon as the show ends. But then maybe it's covered in Denny's DFS article. Maybe we read about it in a blurb. Some of the other articles on our website. Divisional Round, again, probably the best weekend of the entire year. Going to be hard to beat the wild card weekend, but if anything can do it, it's the Divisional Round. So we really appreciate everyone listening. You guys have anything to say, or should I just end the show?
I think it's time to end the show so I can make some lineups.
Yeah. You mean golf lineups too?
That's actually exactly what I meant.
For Denny Carter, for Kyle Dvorchak, I'm Patrick Daugherty. We really appreciate you listening. We will talk to you Sunday evening.